A mysterious man left a large tip, along with a letter for the waitress at a restaurant. After she saw the letter, she was astonished by what was written inside. On an autumn afternoon in the quiet town of Greenwood, the streets buzzed with the rustling of falling leaves, signaling the change of seasons. The scene unfolded to reveal the Sunset Grill House, a cozy restaurant popular among the locals. Inside, the air was filled with the scents of freshly brewed coffee and pies baking in the oven. Victoria, a 35-year-old waitress with her hair tied up in a messy bun, skillfully moved between tables, serving patrons with a warm smile. Every movement she made reflected a mix of efficiency and care, traits appreciated by all who knew her. "How are the kids, Victoria?" asked Mr. John, one of the restaurant's most frequent customers, as he received his cup of coffee from her. "They're doing well. Thanks for asking, Mr. John," Victoria replied with a smile. "Jack joined the soccer team, and the girls are loving their dance classes." As she finished speaking, her 3 children came running into the restaurant. Jack, the oldest, led his sisters, Alice and Ashley, to their usual table in the corner, where Victoria always sat them during her shift. "Hi, Mum," they exclaimed, their faces beaming with joy. "Hi, sweeties," Victoria greeted them, giving out kisses and hugs. She then went to the kitchen to fetch some snacks she'd prepared the night before to serve to her kids. "How was school today?" she asked, as the 3 devoured their sandwiches and juice. "There was a talent show and I sang," Ashley revealed, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You sang? That's wonderful, sweetheart," Victoria responded, her face beaming with pride. As the kids shared more about their day, Victoria watched them with a mix of joy and worry, mindful of the financial challenges she faced to keep the family afloat. After a few moments, she said goodbye to return to work, cleaning tables and serving new customers. Reflecting on her journey since Evan, the children's father, had passed away in a tragic car accident, Victoria knew each day was a battle. But the determination and strength she'd developed over the years to keep her children safe kept her going. As the afternoon gave way to night, the Sunset Grill House began to quiet down, with just a few customers being served amid the evening glow. Victoria used these calmer moments to catch her breath and plan out the rest of her shift. That's when the mysterious man walked in. Wearing a dark overcoat and a hat that shadowed his face, the man seemed different from the simple folks who usually frequented the cafe. His footsteps were quiet, yet his presence was immediately noticeable. He chose a table in the farthest corner, and upon sitting down, his eyes carefully surveyed the surroundings, as if imprinting every detail in his mind. Victoria, used to all sorts of clientele, approached with the menu in hand. "Good evening, sir. Can I take your order or perhaps recommend one of our specials?" she asked with a smile. The man looked up at her, and for a brief moment, Victoria felt like he was peering directly into her soul. "A coffee, please," he replied in a soft but firm voice, "and something light to eat. Surprise me." "Of course. Just a moment, and I'll bring something special for you, sir," Victoria said, feeling a keen curiosity about this new customer. As she walked away, the mysterious man turned his attention to the window, watching the street traffic. His posture and the way he kept a reserved distance from others drew attention, but he didn't seem threatening, just deeply thoughtful. Victoria returned with a plate of vegetable quiche and freshly brewed coffee. "Here you go. I hope you enjoy it," she said, placing the items on the table. "If you need anything else, I'm nearby." "Thank you," he said with a nod. As Victoria busied herself with other tables, he began eating slowly, occasionally making eye contact with her. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this man, something he might be searching for or trying to forget. At that moment, Victoria's kids, who were getting ready to head home, passed by his table. Jack accidentally bumped into the man's chair, spilling a bit of his coffee. "Sorry, sir," Jack exclaimed, visibly startled. "No problem, young man," the man responded with a gentle smile. his expression softening. Accidents happen. Victoria rushed over to help, apologizing as well, but the man simply waved it off, downplaying the incident. Really, it's fine. Are they your children? You're lucky. Yes, they are my greatest joy and motivation in life, Victoria replied, smiling at her children, and my greatest challenge. The man chuckled, a low and warm sound. The best challenges often are, he remarked, a mysterious gleam in his eyes. The night went on, and the mysterious man remained in the cafe until closing time, watching, pondering, and occasionally exchanging glances and words with Victoria. When he finally stood up to leave, he left a generous tip on the table, along with a note that Victoria wouldn't discover until after he had gone. Victoria picked up the note, curious. She was about to open a small envelope, not realizing that this gesture would set off a series of events that would change her life and those around her. After the mysterious man had departed, Victoria was cleaning the tables, her thoughts still on the enigmatic customer. She held the note in her hands, feeling the weight of curiosity. The children had already been taken home by her sister, who helped care for them on longer work nights. Alone in the almost empty restaurant, Victoria finally had a moment to open the envelope. Inside, she found a handwritten note in elegant, firm handwriting. Dearest Victoria, thank you for the excellent meal and even more delightful service. It's rare to find a place that feels so welcoming, especially for a traveler like me. I noticed that you and your children share a special bond, a true treasure. Please accept this small aid as a gesture of gratitude for a pleasant evening and for reminding me of the value of small kindnesses. I hope you can use this to give them something special. With respect, Oliver. Beside the note, Victoria found several bills, far more than a simple tip for the night. For a moment she was breathless, surprised, and a little confused by the stranger's generosity. The amount was enough to cover rent for the month, or perhaps buy Alice those new shoes she needed for dance, with some left over. The next day, Victoria returned to work with her mind buzzing. She shared the news with her sister, Isabella, who advised her to be cautious. People don't just give out money like that, Victoria. Are you going to see him again? What if I don't see him again? Victoria wondered. What if it was just a gesture of kindness? Determined not to let the opportunity slip by, Victoria used part of the money to buy Alice new dance shoes and enroll Jack in a local soccer tournament. Something he had wanted for a long time, but that the family's budget had never allowed. Ashley received a new illustrated book, fueling her recent love of reading. A few weeks passed, and Oliver returned to the cafe. He seemed more like a frequent customer than just a visitor. Upon seeing him, Victoria hesitated for a moment before approaching with her usual warm smile. Good afternoon, Mr. Oliver. It's a pleasure to see you again, she said, trying to hide her nervousness. I hope you enjoyed your last visit. Oh, I did. And it looks like my small contributions were well received, Oliver replied, a calm smile crossing his face. How are the kids? Victoria was grateful for his concern. They're very happy, Mr. Oliver, and I really don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, he said kindly. Seeing that I could help is already a gift to me. From then on, their conversation flowed more naturally, with Oliver showing genuine interest in Victoria's life and her children. He began to visit the cafe regularly, always at the same time, always choosing the same table. Over time, an unexpected friendship blossomed between the solitary traveler and the resilient waitress. Victoria could never have imagined that a stranger's generosity would transform into a friendship that would bring new hopes and perhaps new opportunities for her family. As Oliver's visits became part of the Sunset Grillhouse routine, they also became Victoria's most anticipated moments. Each meeting with him brought new stories and glimpses of a world beyond Greenwood's borders. Oliver had a way of recounting his adventures that made Victoria feel like she was right there with him, sailing distant seas or exploring exotic cities. It was like a breath of fresh air in her life, which had for so long been focused solely on work and caring for her children. During one of those quiet afternoons, with the cafe just murmuring with the chatter of regular customers, Oliver looked at Victoria with a serious expression and proposed, "Victoria, I've thought of something that could really brighten up our town. How about we organize a big community event? We can have a fair in the park, bring in music, food, games for the kids. It could be a way to bring everyone together while raising funds for a good local cause." The idea immediately resonated with Victoria. She had always wanted to give back to the community that had supported her through difficult times. "Oliver, that's a wonderful idea. I wouldn't know where to start, but with you here, I'm sure we can create something special." Preparations began with enthusiasm. Victoria and Oliver spent several afternoons planning every detail to ensure everything would be perfect. They decided the fair would include stalls of locally made crafts, a food section featuring dishes from the town's restaurants, including the Sunset Grill House, and a stage for musical and dance performances by local schools. Oliver financed almost the entire event, as he was a financially stable man, while Victoria mobilized her network of acquaintances to get input from people living in town about what they'd find interesting to add to the event, ensuring nothing was missing. Word of the event spread quickly through town, and the community responded with surprising enthusiasm. Everyone wanted to participate in some way, bringing a sense of unity and purpose to Greenwood that hadn't been felt in a long time. The week before the event, while helping set up the last stalls in the park, Oliver shared more about his life with Victoria. "You know, Victoria, something about this town, about you and your kids, made me want to be the best person I can be. You showed me that there's still warmth and kindness in people." Victoria, touched by Oliver's sincerity, felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Oliver, you've brought so much light into our lives. Not just mine, but the whole town's. I don't know how we would have gotten here without you." On the eve of the event, everything was ready. The colorful stalls were lined up, food was being prepared, and musicians were tuning their instruments. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink, Victoria and Oliver walked through the park, observing the final preparations. "Do you think people will enjoy it?" Victoria asked, nervous with anticipation. Oliver put a reassuring arm around her shoulders. "They're going to love it, Victoria. You did something incredible here. We did this together, giving our best in every detail to make it all amazing, and I truly believe it's perfect." The morning of the event dawned with a clear blue sky and a gentle breeze, promising a perfect day. As the sun began to warm the park, Victoria was already bustling about, supervising the final preparations with a mix of nerves and excitement. Oliver, for his part, moved around the venue, checking every detail and greeting the volunteers and early visitors with a smile. The craft stalls were neatly lined up, displaying an impressive variety of handmade creations by Greenwood's talented artists. Colorful paintings, delicate ceramics, and hand-woven textiles caught the curious eyes of visitors. The food area, brimming with inviting aromas, offered everything from homemade pies to exotic dishes prepared by local restaurants, reflecting the culinary diversity of the Greenwood community. On the stage in the center of the park, a group of children from the local schools were preparing to kick off the performances. Alice, dressed in a sparkling dance outfit, was among them. When her turn came to perform, her graceful movements and the confidence she exuded captivated everyone's attention. Watching from behind the scenes, Victoria felt her heart swell with pride. Tears welled up in her eyes as she saw the joy on her daughter's face. As the day progressed, the event seemed to take on a life of its own. Laughter and conversation filled the air, creating an atmosphere of festivity and unity. People of all ages and backgrounds mingled, sharing stories and experiences, while children ran and played freely around the park. Oliver watched everything with a deep sense of accomplishment, realizing that this event was far more than just a party. It symbolized the result of the hard work of Oliver and Victoria and Greenwood's community strength. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the last notes of live music gave way to a contemplative silence. Oliver walked up to Victoria, who stood gazing at the now peaceful park, reflecting on the day. "Do you see what we accomplished, Victoria?" Oliver asked, his voice brimming with pride. Victoria turned to him, her eyes still wet with tears of joy. "Yes, Oliver, and this never would have happened without your help. Thank you for believing in us, in our community." Oliver held her hands, looking into her eyes with a warm intensity. "Victoria, it was you who showed me that I could still make a difference. This place, the people here, you and your children, you've given me a new home. I can't imagine being anywhere else." The two shared a tight embrace, acknowledging the deep bond they'd formed. The event had not only brought the community together, but it had also united them in a way neither of them could have anticipated. Together they had found a new family, a new hope, and a new beginning. As the last people left the park, Victoria and Oliver began helping with the cleanup, already planning the next event. Both knew that evening would mark just the beginning of many more celebrations and shared moments in Greenwood, a community invigorated by the spirit of unity. After the event, life at the Sunset Grill House not only returned to normal, but also saw an increase in visitors. Customers, many of whom had participated in the community fair, now visited the cafe more frequently, bringing friends and family from other towns. Victoria was busier than ever, but each day was infused with a new sense of purpose and joy. Oliver, who had become a constant presence at Victoria's side, suggested they could use the cafe as a meeting point, not just for meals, but also for regular community activities. Together, they began hosting small weekly events at the cafe. From poetry nights and live music to craft workshops and storytelling sessions for the kids, each event was well received and brought even more cohesion to the Greenwood community. As winter approached, Victoria and Oliver discussed ways to help those in need. Inspired by the generosity the event had sparked, they launched a coat and non-perishable food drive at the cafe. The response was overwhelming, with mountains of donations piling up by the entrance. Oliver took care of distributing these items to families in need, ensuring everyone in Greenwood had a warmer, more comfortable winter. On a cold December afternoon during their break, Victoria and Oliver watched the crowded cafe with a sense of pride. At that moment, Oliver took Victoria's hand across the table, looking into her eyes with a seriousness she had learned to recognize and respect. "Victoria, these past few months have been some of the best of my life," he began, hesitant. "I've been thinking about the future and, well, I'd love to keep being part of yours if you'll have me." Victoria, whose feelings for Oliver had grown into a complex mix of deep friendship and love, felt her heart beat faster at his words. "Oliver, I can't imagine my life without you now. You and the kids have become my family," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. With a smile that lit up his face, Oliver leaned forward and kissed her gently. It was a new beginning for both of them, a commitment not just to each other, but to the life they were building together in Greenwood. So as the snow continued to fall outside, creating a peaceful landscape, inside the Sunset Grill House, laughter and future plans filled the air. Victoria and Oliver, now partners not just in community life but in personal life as well, were ready to face whatever came next, knowing they had each other's support and that of an entire town. With the arrival of spring, Greenwood seemed to awaken from a long winter's sleep. Trees sprouted new leaves, and flowers colored the park flower beds, bringing new life to the town. Victoria and Oliver, now an established couple in the community, planned their next big project, a spring festival that would celebrate the town's beauty and local talents. As the preparations for the festival progressed, Victoria and Oliver's relationship seemed solid. However, on a quiet afternoon, as Victoria sorted through old papers in the cafe's office, she found a series of newspaper clippings and documents that Oliver had forgotten. Curiously, she began reading and discovered shocking details about Oliver's past. The headlines spoke of a businessman whose greedy decisions led to environmental disasters and significant losses for many families. Shaken, Victoria confronted Oliver when he arrived at the cafe. "Oliver, what are these documents? They talk about bankruptcies and pollution caused by your companies. Is this true?" Her voice trembled, not just with disappointment but with fear that she had trusted someone she didn't truly know. Oliver sighed, the weight of the revelations clearly visible on his tired face. "Victoria, I hope to tell you everything in my own time. Yes, it's true, I was a very different man, consumed by greed, and I made choices that hurt many people. Since then, I've been trying to make amends for my mistakes, and everything I've done in Greenwood has been part of my attempt at redemption." Victoria felt torn. Oliver's honesty was evident, but the magnitude of his past mistakes was hard to accept. I need time to think about all this," she said, stepping outside for some fresh air, leaving Oliver alone with his remorse. In the days that followed, the tension between them was palpable. The spring festival, once a source of excitement, became a reminder of the uncertainties that now loomed over them. Despite the discomfort, they decided to continue with the event, both understanding how much the community depended on them. The festival, though successful in execution, was marked by moments of distance and silent reflection between Victoria and Oliver. As families celebrated around them, Victoria watched Oliver interacting with the townsfolk, questioning the true character of the man she loved. The spring festival was drawing to a close, and as the last lights dimmed and families began leaving the park, Oliver took Victoria's hand and led her to a secluded bench. The night air was cool, and the silence following the festive day gave Oliver the space he needed to open his heart. "Victoria," he began hesitantly, looking at her hands clasped in his, "I know the documents you found raised many questions, and I feel it's time to tell the whole story, not just the fragments or headlines that the world saw." Sensing the seriousness of the moment, Victoria squeezed Oliver's hand, encouraging him to open up. "Victoria, the documents you found, they tell a story I wanted to share with you under different circumstances," Oliver began, his voice low and laden with regret. "Before I came to Greenwood, I was a very different man. As a businessman, my greed guided me, and my companies thrived at the expense of others and the environment." He paused, looking down at their intertwined hands, as if searching for the strength to continue. "I built my empire without considering the consequences. My factories polluted rivers, devastated lands, and I ignored the communities that suffered because of it. Everything happened from minor environmental incidents to a major disaster that displaced hundreds of families, destroying everything they had." Victoria listened in silence, each revelation striking like a blow that dismantled the image of the man she thought she knew. "When the impact of my actions finally came to light, I faced lawsuits, investigations. I had almost nothing left. Much of my fortune was gone, almost all my businesses shut down, and the friends I thought I had were really just people interested in my money and social standing. I was left alone with my guilt and a painful clarity about the man I had become." Oliver looked at Victoria, his eyes searching for any sign of understanding or forgiveness. From that moment, I decided to leave that life behind, Victoria. When I came here, I saw a chance to start over, to do something good. I wanted to redeem myself somehow for the damage I caused. Victoria, still processing the information, felt a mix of shock and compassion. "Oliver, why didn't you tell me before?" "I was afraid," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "Afraid of losing you, of you seeing me only as the man I once was. But I'm not that man anymore, Victoria. Everything I've done in Greenwood, every project, every initiative, was an attempt to repair some of the harm I caused." Victoria listened intently, recognizing the courage Oliver displayed in revealing his dark past. She knew she would need time to digest all this, but his sincerity was undeniable. "I need to think about all this, Oliver, but thank you for being honest with me," she finally said, her voice trembling. After revealing the turbulent past that haunted him, Oliver and Victoria continued walking through the quiet park under the starry night sky. The cold air seemed to carry Oliver's heavy words, leaving a space of silence between them as Victoria processed everything. After a few minutes, Oliver stopped, turning to Victoria with a serious expression. "Victoria, there's one more thing I've been holding back that I need to tell you," he began, his voice still trembling from the earlier confession. "When I talked about the end of my career and the start of my journey toward redemption, I omitted a crucial detail that, in a way, drove it all." Victoria looked at him, encouraging him to continue with a gentle nod. "Shortly before deciding to sell what was left of my companies and change my life, I found out that I have a serious case of a terminal illness," Oliver revealed, the words carrying a weight that seemed to darken the night sky above them. "The doctors gave me an uncertain prognosis, but I certainly don't have much time left." Victoria felt her heart tighten, the revelations of the night painting a picture of a man confronted by his mortality and past mistakes. "Oliver, I'm so sorry to hear that," she said, her voice low and full of emo. Oliver nodded, looking down before raising his eyes to meet hers again. It was a shock, of course, but in many ways that diagnosis opened my eyes. It made me realize how empty my pursuit of success and wealth had been. I decided I wanted to leave something more meaningful behind. Not just a legacy of wealth, but one of true contribution to the world. Something that could really make up for the damage I caused. That's why I chose to come to Greenwood and why I dedicated myself so deeply to these community projects," Oliver continued. "I wanted to do something good, something that really mattered, while I still can." With tears in her eyes, Victoria took Oliver's hand between hers. "And you did something good, Oliver. Very good. I'm grateful you chose to share this with me, even though it's so difficult." Oliver managed a sad smile. "I didn't want our relationship to be built on secrets, and regardless of the time I have left, I want to spend it doing things that add value, with people who mean something to me. You, Victoria, mean so much." The two stayed in the park for a while longer, sharing the silence and the gentle sound of the breeze through the leaves. As they walked back home, they knew that despite the uncertainties of the future, they would face them together, supporting each other every step of the way. As the reality of Oliver's illness settled in, Greenwood continued to flourish under their care, a testament to the positive impact they'd created together. Despite the weight of the diagnosis, they found strength in each other and the community surrounding them. On a sunny spring morning, Oliver and Victoria sat in the backyard garden of the cafe, a spot they'd turned into a small sanctuary for themselves. As the scent of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the fragrance of flowers, they discussed the establishment of the Greenwood Foundation. "I want the foundation to be a legacy, Victoria, something that will continue to benefit the town long after I'm gone," said Oliver, looking at the plans spread out on the table. His voice, though firm, held a melancholy tone, reflecting the urgency of his limited time. Victoria absorbed each word, her heart heavy but determined. "And it will be, Oliver. We'll make sure of it together. The foundation will focus on helping people in need and teaching the community about sustainability, something that will allow us to pass on to future generations how to care for this incredible place we call home." In the months that followed, they dedicated themselves to organizing events to raise funds and awareness for the foundation. An open-air cinema was set up in the town park, where films on the environment and sustainability were shown. The community responded enthusiastically, bringing families to watch under the stars, wrapped in blankets and sharing popcorn. Amid the foundation's commitments, Oliver and Victoria found moments to be together, cherishing the silence and each other's company more than ever. On one of these nights, under the starry sky after a film, Oliver held Victoria's hand. "You know, I never thought I'd find as much peace as I have here with you," he murmured, squeezing her hand. "You've given me a reason to believe I can be a better person." Victoria smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And you are, Oliver. You've changed so many lives here, including mine. We'll make sure your light keeps shining no matter what happens." As Oliver's health began to decline, the challenges grew more difficult, but Victoria was always by his side. She accompanied him to each doctor's appointment, discussed treatments, and looked for ways to maintain his quality of life for as long as possible. Together, they faced each day with a mix of realism and hope. At the official inauguration of the Greenwood Foundation, Oliver, now visibly weaker, insisted on being there. With Victoria by his side, he watched the crowd gather to celebrate the beginning of a new chapter in the community's history. "Look what we've built, Victoria," he whispered as she held his hand tightly. "It's all because of you." Victoria, though emotional, smiled lovingly at him. "We built this together, Oliver, and we'll keep building, I promise you." As the vibrant colors of autumn swept across Greenwood, Oliver's health declined rapidly, bringing a somber silence to the Sunset Grill House, where so many ideas had flourished. In his final days, Oliver spent time sitting in a chair in the small garden behind the cafe, wrapped in blankets, watching the leaves fall from the trees, each one seeming to mark the time he had left. Victoria, always by his side, held his hand, trying to offer comfort without words. They spoke little now, but when they did, it was about the foundation and future plans. A world Oliver hoped to see flourish even in his absence. On one of those cold afternoons, as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Oliver turned to Victoria with tired but determined eyes. "Victoria, promise me you'll continue the work we started. Make the foundation a beacon of hope and innovation," he said, his voice weak but urgent. Victoria, with tears that refused to stay back, nodded firmly. "I promise, Oliver, your legacy will live on in every project we complete and every life we touch." When Oliver passed away, a deep sadness fell over Greenwood. The community he had helped transform felt his loss profoundly. The funeral was a simple ceremony in the town park, where friends, family, and all those whom Oliver had touched with his work came to pay their final respects. Flowers from many people's gardens decorated the place, a testament to the love the community felt for him. In the weeks and months that followed, Victoria took the reins of the Greenwood Foundation with renewed strength. She was determined to honor the promise she had made to Oliver. Under her leadership, the foundation not only continued existing projects, but also launched new ones, including an environmental education program for young people and a project to revitalize the town's green spaces. With each new project, Victoria felt Oliver's presence guiding and inspiring her. She spoke of him often, ensuring that his memory and ideals remained alive. On the first anniversary of his death, Victoria organized the inaugural Oliver Annual Festival, an event that celebrated his life and the contributions he made to the community. The festival was filled with music, art, and educational activities, all reflecting the values that Oliver had stood for until the end of his life. Sitting alone for a moment during the festival, on a bench under the trees where she and Oliver had so often planned for the future, Victoria looked up at the blue sky above her. "We'll carry on, Oliver," she whispered, a sad yet hopeful smile on her lips. "Your dream is now our dream, and I'll do everything to keep it alive." And so, with the community's support and the love she still felt for Oliver fueling her passion, Victoria moved forward, facing the future with courage and determination, knowing that as long as she lived, Oliver's legacy would never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give a like and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.